Christy Hartman here. Welcome back to my channel. Today we are talking about tags, and more tags. We're going to use a variety of materials. We're going to use gel prints. We're going to use stencil butter. We're going to use some Galaxy glitter from Tim Holtz. We're going to use stencils from pmartiststudio. We're going to punch. We're going to put some strips. We're going to add a little bit of white marker, and we're going to do a little bit of painting. So stick around with me as we put together these tags. Tags, for me, are a great way to experiment with composition. They're small, so you don't have to deal with as much retail space. You don't have to be quite as invested then as when you work on a larger surface. Because they're small, you can experiment using scraps and parts and pieces. I like to layer my papers to bring out colors that appear in the piece. For me, color is an important component of composition. You will see me audition various components trying to find the best arrangement. One thing I look at frequently are planes. No, not airplanes. Instead, are my compositional elements on the same plane or in line with other components? Sometimes you want elements to line up vertically or horizontally, but not always. There are so many things to consider while working on your composition, and these mini collages give you the opportunity to play and experiment. Using prints and elements that by themselves are actually pretty boring, but once I combine them with other prints and elements, they take on a life of their own and develop depth and value and color and texture. These are all part of the elements and principles of design, which, if you're not familiar with those, you might want to familiarize yourself with those. They do help when you are understanding what you might think that you do intuitively. You will have a better understanding for composition. In this next section, I'm looking specifically at color and using a blue monochromatic theme to pull the tag together. I am incorporating different textures. In my world, color plays an important role in my compositional decisions. And even though I'm using different shades of blue on this tag, the fact that it's all within the same color family pulls it all together. In this tag, I'm playing with two prints, which both contain Naples yellow and turquoise. You can see that this helps to determine where I place the various elements. The pink, even though it's a pink and purple combination, the Naples yellow draws the two together and gives it almost that look of two complementary colors. I've decided that these prints need some additional added interest to them. And I'm using an old stencil and stencil butter to just add some contrast and to give it a little bit of drama that I feel that it's lacking. And I'm using various colors that I think play well with the existing prints, such as the copper that I'm going to add to this print, the black that I used previously. This is another stencil that's a pmartiststudio stencil, and I don't know if it's available to the general public. I'll have to look and see. It was a stencil that was a promotional stencil that they had. This is also a pmartiststudio stencil, and I'm using seafoam green stencil butter to add the flowers. And the flowers play well with what's going on the other side of this tag. This is a stencil called Asemic Writing, and it's available through pmartiststudio. And I'm using washi tape just to mask off the areas so I can keep the black off of the rest of my tag. This is a particularly fun stencil, and I think it worked really well for this purpose. I think this one needs a strip. I think it needs it right there. This next section is a technique that I saw Elizabeth St. Hilaire use on one of her videos for joggles. And you use the tacky when dry and spread it over your stencil. Remove the stencil, let it dry, and once it's dry, then you apply the iCraft deco foil to the front of it. And it is brilliant. I just love it. Once the tacky when dry is completely dry, then you burnish over the top of this deco foil, and as you burnish it, it transfers onto the tacky when dry, and it really is lovely. I mean, it is just absolutely gorgeous. So take a look at that. I decided that this tag needed some additional interest, and I added the stencil butter to the center of the sunflower using an old piece of punchinello. Once this is dry, I go over the top of it with this turquoise Stickles Gel from Tim Holtz, and I add it to the top center of that sunflower too. And again, we're dealing with color, so we're pulling from different areas of this tag to pull everything together. I decide that the back of this tag is actually kind of boring, so I look for a deco art color, and I'm dry brushing around the outside edge of this tag using that paint color, and try to fill in some of the areas. And you'll find that I also layer some different paint colors. This is a little bit of a metallic over the top of it just to give it a little bit more shimmer. And this color seems to work well with the seafoam stencil butter that I used previously. Now I'm going to use a little bit of punchinella and navy blue deco art. And the navy blue actually has turquoise undertones. That's why I chose it. And I go over the top of it. And then in a few minutes, I'm going to add a little bit of white to that navy blue and go back over the top of it with a lighter value to just kind of give it more of a subtle appearance. Now I'm going to use my black Posca pen and just outline the floral pattern, just to kind of make the flowers stand out a bit more. and it'll give it a little bit of drama. Thanks for joining me. I hope you enjoyed this video. I tried some new techniques. For example, this glitter in the background was a new technique. I also added some words to some of these tags. This was just some words that I cut out of a book, and I glued them on here in kind of just a little bit of a poem type thing. This one is another one where I glued some words onto the tag, and I absolutely love this technique where I laid the gold on there. That's probably one of my new favorite techniques. This one, I added some Asemic writing to the back, which I think was pretty effective, and then put the copper on here to kind of pull the colors out of this one. This one started out being very, very boring, and by the time I was done with it, it has become one of my favorites. This one, of course, I did a little bit more of a little bit of a poem on here. I added the copper to the front, and I think it kind of pulled the whole thing together. So make sure to like, subscribe if you haven't already, and I'll see you in my next video.